It's Don LaGreca and David LaGreca. It's a LaGreca show. Happy to be with you. And Dave, we've got a very exciting list. And what we're going to do is put our top 5 list together and then come up with the quintessential, ready for it? Top 5 guilty pleasure movies. And the way I look at it is, and this is very difficult for my brother and I because we do not embarrass easily. But what it comes down to is this. A movie that you love, a movie that you watch every time it's on, but are embarrassed to say that you love it. When you're in a room and talk to people that you love it, they all shame you. They all ridicule you. That is the type of movie that makes this list, brother.
Yeah, I looked at this list and I figured that it either has to be a critical flop or a box office flop. And I think the movies that I have on my list, especially when it comes to critical, it's definitely all 5 are critical flops. But all 5 of these movies, if they're on, I'm watching it. All 5 of these movies I love. All 5 of these movies I own. And as a very special LaGreca trivia, Don, one of these 5 movies is actually my wife Violetta's favorite movie
Really?
of all time. Yes.
Interesting. Because
Yes.
I wouldn't say any of the 5 that I have are my favorite movies, but with great shame, I will take the walk of shame to the television to watch these movies. And one little thing is that one of them I do have that did do well and was critically acclaimed, at least as far as compared to the other ones. But still, you find yourself defending yourself when you're in a room with people when you say that you love it. So do you want to start?
I will. I'll start. And I have my quintessential LaGreca guilty pleasure playlist here when it comes to top 5 guilty pleasure movies. And at number 5, and again, I own this. I own it on DVR. I own it on DVD. And I saw it in the movie one time because when I went to go see it a second time, it had already been pulled from the theaters. And I love this movie. And just so you know, it was a box office flop, the biggest box office flop on my list. It only made $5 million. And on the Rotten Tomato, it's 48% Rotten Tomatoes, which is the highest of any of the movies on my list. And at number 5, I have Detroit Rock City.
Interesting, because that actually is a movie that I like as well. It's not on my list, but I like it. I guess it really just comes down to how big a Kiss fan you are, or if you're a Kiss snob. Like I could see a Kiss snob not liking the movie, and then if you don't like Kiss, you're not going to get the movie. I think you have to be in a different kind of frame of mind as like you're a Kiss fan, but not a Kiss snob. I put myself in that category, and I actually enjoy that movie.
Well, I'll tell you this. I went and saw it the night it opened. I went with my then girlfriend at the time, and we were 2 of only 3 people that were in the theater the night it opened. So that tells you right there that it wasn't going to be any kind of a hit.
Now, what's interesting, though, because you went Rotten Tomatoes, what I did on my list, and I will look up yours as well, because I'm a big fan of the site IMDb. What does IMDb rate it? And IMDb, with over 35,000 votes, has it as a 6.9.
Really?
So there are a lot of people that like that movie then. 6.9 is pretty high for a guilty pleasure, but I hear where you're going. So
the movie made $5 million, and
I understand.
48% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it lasted in the movie theaters for a week.
I get it. But we'll see if it survives later.
People that like that movie, it's number 5 on my list.
Don't get too crazy, okay? All right, because we got a long way to go.
All right.
So that's number 5. Go ahead.
4. Okay, number 4, and this is another movie that's near and dear to my heart. It has to do with my love for professional wrestling.
Interesting.
It's got an outstanding 10% on Rotten Tomatoes, and that is No Holds Barred with Zeus and Hulk Hogan. That led to in-ring battle as well. But at number 4, No Holds Barred.
I don't know. I can't. Well, because you're a wrestling guy, and I'm not a wrestling guy. I can't imagine I'd be able to stomach any more than like 5 minutes of this movie. Now, it did 4.4 on IMDb, so now we're cooking. Now we're cooking there. Matter of fact, less than 6,000 people even voted because it's not even like anybody looks this movie up.
It did a little decent in the box office, but I don't think anybody was considering that movie when it came to Oscar time. So that's at number 4. I have No Holds Barred.
I think that is an excellent chance of making this the quintessential list.
Okay. At number 3, and there's a lot, the lead in this actor, there's a lot of movies that I can put on the guilty pleasure movie list.
Right.
But I had to pick this one. Once again, there's some wrestling ties to it. Terry Funk is in this amazing movie.
What is the matter with you?
It has a whopping 30% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I got to be honest, I love this movie. And it's Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone.
Really?
Over the Top. And it's got a great theme song by Kenny Loggins in it as well. Meet Me Halfway, which was a major hit in the mid-'80s.
You are something else, I got to tell you, because like I never saw this movie because quite honestly, I never really was interested in ever arm wrestling anybody. Never mind an actual movie on arm wrestling. Did a 5.8 on IMDb. It's got a pretty decent cast too, but my God, your wrestling stuff is just, it's really infested your brain. It really has.
And I thinking,
let me just check. Is Rhinestone on this too? Like
no,
your infatuation between wrestling and Sylvester Stallone. I wouldn't be surprised if Rhinestone made your list.
It's not. And I was thinking about putting Cobra, but then Cobra, I have not met one person. I have not met one person that saw Cobra that didn't like it.
I got to tell you,
everybody I've ever spoken to loved Cobra. I couldn't put Cobra on the list.
No, I am with you on Cobra because there's like a lot of people that would say, oh, you got to put, no. I'm with you. I've never met anybody that didn't like it. And I'll tell you what, that was 1986. Okay. Jimmy Stark, who I hung around with at the time, and John Stark had a buddy that worked at the Lowe's over in Willowbrook. You were there with me. We must have saw that movie in the summer of 86 like 20 times. It was between that and Ruthless People. We went in and watched, like one day it'd be Ruthless People, the next day it'd be Cobra. And I never regretted a second watching it. And everybody that left the theater loved that movie. So it may not have done well, and I'm sure it people think it sucks, but I've never met one that did. So that's why Cobra would never make my list. But go on.
Now, once again, I wanted to go with you to see Cobra. You didn't invite me. You still have this memory of me being everywhere that you went, but you never took me anywhere. I never saw Cobra with you. I wanted to see it in the theater. I didn't see Cobra till it was on.
Let me just. I'm gonna look into the camera and talk to our audience. Okay, so don't lay out for this. I was 18 years old in 1986. You were 15. I mean, how many 18-year-olds are hanging out with 15-year-olds? Now, as I got in my 20s, and let's face it, you struggled around 15. There was some struggles there. There are pictures, there's footage. So don't get on me. I love you. You know how much I care about you. But 18-year-old Don LaGreca wasn't exactly excited about hanging out with 15-year-old Dave LaGreca. Plus, I couldn't get you any of these movies anyway because they're all rated R.
Don, here's the thing. You keep mentioning how you took me to these movies and these concerts when you didn't.
Well, I know because my memory, because I love you so much, you're in the memory.
All right,
then,
let's continue.
Then you straighten me out and I realize, no,
now you're at the point you're talking nonsense. At number 2, and this movie did 11% on Rotten Tomatoes, 11%.
All right.
And this movie I saw in the theater, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was going to be a huge hit. And that's Drop Dead Fred.
Drop Dead Fred.
I absolutely loved the movie Drop Dead Fred. It had the one guy from The Young Ones.
Yes.
It had Phoebe Cates in it.
Yes. Phoebe,
really
how do you
good
get
cast. Great story. Great movie. Drop Dead Fred.
It may not make it.
It's unbelievable how people despise this movie. I absolutely love it.
I liked it too. I didn't even consider it because it's probably the reason I didn't consider it is that it's not, you never see it. It's like never on because I don't think I've seen it in over 20 years, but you are so right. The guy from The Young Ones, he's hilarious in it. And how do you get wrong? How do you go wrong with Phoebe Cates?
And Carrie Fisher's in it too. That's Carrie Fisher's in the movie. So you thought there'd be some crossover with the Star Wars fans.
You would
Didn't
think.
happen, though.
But I just want to get on IMDb. It does an even 6, which isn't too bad. But I like the movie. I'm into what you're doing here. Rick Mayhall is the guy you're talking about who played Drop Dead Fred, and Phoebe Cates is in it. Marsha Mason, Tim Matheson, Carrie Fisher.
Like I said,
really good. That's a good one. That's a very outstanding job there.
But as good as that one is, my number one is by far. Like I almost don't want to associate with people that don't like this movie, because I think that people who don't like this movie, there's actually something wrong with you, and I don't want to be your friend. I don't want to know you. I don't even want to be an acquaintance with you. Roger Ebert reviewed this movie, and he said, this is not a good movie. So that's what
that's the review.
Roger Ebert's review is, this is not a good movie.
God bless his soul.
Let me tell you something. One of the greatest characters in the history of movie making. It only did 39% on Rotten Tomatoes. But then again, I swear by this movie. I own it. I own it on VHS. I own it on DVD. I bought it on Google Movies. It's on my DVR. I watch it probably more than any other movie.
So you can't go anywhere without having access to this movie.
That's how good it is.
You're in Kuwait, you can still see this movie.
When I'm in a bad mood, I put it on so it puts me in a good mood. When I want to psych myself up to get ready for a big task, I watch this movie and I'm ready to take on the world. And that is one of the most phenomenal movies of all time. Patrick Swayze's Roadhouse.
Wow. I honestly, I don't know too many people that don't like it. I love Roadhouse.
Roadhouse is
I didn't have it on my list because I didn't think people didn't like that movie. Who doesn't like that movie?
39% on Rotten Tomatoes. And like I said, Roger Ebert, who's known as maybe one of the greatest movie critics of all time, said, this is not a good movie. But I believe that it is. And Roadhouse is my number one.
6.6 on IMDb. Patrick Swayze, Sam Elliott, Kelly Lynch, Ben Gazzara. Give me a break. I mean, anybody that doesn't like this movie, but I love that. That is a great. I love Roadhouse, Drop Dead Fred. You have me, but then all your silly wrestling testosterone movies, I don't. I'm not
Over the
really
Top
interested.
is a great movie. No Holds Barred, and Detroit Rock City is phenomenal. All right, so Don, what is your 5 guilty pleasure movies?
All right, here we go. This did a 5.6 on IMDb. This is an actor that has been discredited in every movie he has ever been in. Okay. Made a bunch of them in the early 90s. This might be the worst of them all, okay? And he's made some terrible, terrible movies, all right? This one tops them all, but I can't get enough of it. Every single time it's on, I watch. Every time. And that is Jean-Claude Van Damme, Double Impact.
I love Double Impact. Great story. Very, very realistic in every single way. I am a big fan of Double Impact.
You're lying. None of what David said is true. But it's still a phenomenal movie. Still a phenomenal movie. And anybody that hasn't seen it, Jean-Claude Van Damme, if you hate Jean-Claude Van Damme, don't watch it, because with the 1991 technology, split screen of his twin brother, one good, one bad, one preppy, one like underground, and they're all it's got every like generic like Asian actor in the movie. It's so over the top bad, but I just absolutely adore that movie every time that it's on. Double Impact, Jean-Claude Van Damme.
35% on Rotten Tomatoes, Double Impact.
Okay. So the other one, I don't know why. I don't like the music. The rapper that's in it is a rapper that I love, but it was before he broke out. So the rapping he does is god awful because it's from 1984. The storyline, there is no, it's awful. They're trying to save like a playground, a place that they can hang out called Miracles. Break into Electric Boogaloo.
Don, let me tell you something. I love Break Into Electric Boogaloo. And I know a lot of people, first of all, much better than the original Breakin'. And you're right. You mentioned Ice-T. Ice-T is phenomenal in his rap.
But it's before his gangster rap stuff. So when you see him perform, it's like, it's awful, but it's so awful, it's good.
29% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't understand why, but Don, I'm in total agreement with you. I love Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo. And the main actress, hot.
Yes.
Hot.
She's
No
hot.
doubt.
And Boogaloo Shrimp, or whatever his name was, he just passed away a couple of weeks ago. 5.1 on IMDb. This one we've talked about many times before. I was actually surprised that it was not on your list. Number 3 on my list, 4.5 on IMDb, Biodome with Pauly Shore and Stephen Baldwin.
Don, once again, I mean, this is why we're brothers. I love Biodome. I was thinking about putting Biodome on my list, but the more research I did, it probably would fall 6 or 7 on my list. Another one of those movies, Don. If it's on, I'm watching. Pauly Shore. How Pauly Shore didn't get nominated for an Oscar somehow, some way, still baffles me, but I love Biodome.
I know it's a movie that features like smelling their own farts and having women that are way more attractive than they could ever possibly get in real life, but it had a pretty decent cast as well. William Alderson's also in it. Just a really, I just find myself captivated by that movie. And again, this a 4.5 on IMDb is pretty poor, but they locked him into a 5. It's almost he signed a 5-movie deal. It was almost like he just never wanted to make a movie again. Like every movie he made was worse than the other one. But Biodome is the worst of them all, and yet I find myself captivated every time that it's on. Biodome at number 3. I go back to 1991 for number 2. And it is in that whole martial arts type of genre that I love. And it's also a franchise around this individual. And the title of the movie is always tied in to the individual. And this one is Steven Seagal, Out for Justice. This one is that he's a Brooklyn cop. And he has the over-the-top Brooklyn accent, and everybody in the movie's got the over-the-top Brooklyn accent, and it just makes me laugh. And then the revenge factor where he's beating everybody up, and it's got so many great lines in it. So many great lines. It's I sometimes I'm hanging out at work, and I'll say, "Anybody know who shot Bobby Lupo?"
Bobby Lupo. Let me tell you something. The scene that you're talking about in the pool hall is one of the best scenes in movies history. I completely agree. I don't think the Brooklyn accent was bad at all. I thought for sure he was from Brooklyn after watching that movie. I'll even go a step further. I think by far that's Steven Seagal's best movie. I totally agree with you.
It is his best movie, but it's so funny in that pool room scene where he fires a couple of shots in the air and the guy's like, well, there might be somebody upstairs. Hey, don't nobody upstairs.
Love that movie. It's a great list, Don.
And then he's trying to get back with his wife at the end of the movie, and he's like, are we talking reconciliation here?
It's great. It's not over the top at all. Very realistic. It's I think it's more realistic than an episode of Law and Order SVU.
And it's got, William Forsythe, who's one of the really fine actor, just going on a killing spree in Brooklyn. Jerry Orbach, his captain in the precinct as he's going rogue. And all the time he's able to still find this puppy and drive around with the puppy. And it's got No Sleep Till Brooklyn in it. Great soundtrack. Just great lines. I really love that movie, Out for Justice. Did actually 6.1 on IMDb. I don't know what Rotten Tomatoes had it at.
23% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, so it's my favorite Steven Seagal movie, and it's one of my favorite movies. And if it could be on, I might have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to take somebody to the airport. And if I'm scanning around at 2 o'clock in the morning and that movie's on, I'd get sucked into the end. I have it at number 2. Now, here's where the controversy comes in, because we've had a discussion about this.
Okay.
Because, again, when I think about guilty pleasures, so we're spending a lot of time on movies that did poorly on IMDb, poorly on Rotten Tomatoes. But I thought about the embarrassment factor, the factor where whenever I bring up to people that I love this movie, I always get into a fight. You cannot find anybody that likes this movie. Everybody disrespects this movie. Everybody pisses on this movie, okay?
Wow. That's strong.
Bro, it's strong, but it's true. And that is Godfather 3. Now, it was up for Best Picture, 7.6 on IMDb. The movie did well. So you say, how can it be a guilty pleasure if it was up for Best Picture? David, you can't find anybody. It's compared to the first two movies. Everybody universally pans it. The fact that Francis Ford Coppola used his daughter instead of Winona Ryder. Winona Ryder was supposed to play Michael Corleone's daughter. She passed out from exhaustion early in the movie. He was forced to replace her with his daughter. That got destroyed by the critics. Many people thought it brought the movie down. Andy Garcia was very young at the time. He was a known actor, but this was like his first really big break, and people just had a lot of problems with him being Sonny's brother. They couldn't bring back Robert Duvall as the consigliere because he had committed to Days of Thunder. So there were a lot of things working against this movie. But if it stands alone, it's still a quality flick with a great storyline, some great quotes. But because it always gets compared to the other two, everybody thinks it's an abomination. But I think it's a really good movie. I think it's a fun watch. But I find myself liking Godfather 3 than any other movie that I have in the top 5.
And there's a reason for it. It's not a good movie. Like, yeah, it's 68% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was up for Best Picture. I do agree with you. You can't find anybody that likes that movie. I think it's slow. I think the payoff at the end is terrible because of the poor acting by Sofia Coppola. It's hard for me to defend your number one. I thought, 5, 4, 3, and 2, phenomenal. You lost me at 1.
Well, I'm going to tell you. Then maybe it doesn't make the quintessential list, but I'll tell you. This was a movie we saw together in the theater.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Don.
And if you remember,
of all the concerts, and this is the one you actually took me to, was a movie that nobody likes.
If you remember,
thank you.
If you remember, you talk about the climactic scene where they go to kill Michael. The bullet goes through Michael and he survives, but it hits his daughter in the chest.
Yes.
And she goes, "Daddy," and she drops to her knees and dies. The theater laughed and applauded. Like, they hated her character so much that in this climactic scene, a scene that Francis Ford Coppola is probably thinking to himself is like when they're closing the door in Godfather 1 with the leaves blowing in Godfather, like all the great scenes, the great shots. He probably thinks he's got the money shot, and the audience laughed. I mean, that's just how crazy it is. But I do find myself enjoying the movie, and I think if it stands alone, it gets a little bit more credit. But putting it up against two of the greatest movies ever made, it doesn't stand a chance.
All right. So we got to come up with our quintessential playlist here. So when you look at top 5 guilty pleasure movies, Don, what are you putting on the list? I got to be honest. I think we just put my list on.
Really? Even though you loved my first 4.
I think we just put my list on.
No. Here's why.
Okay.
Because I think both of us represent our audience fully. You got the wrestling crowd, the sports crowd. You saw every one of the movies I have on the list.
All right. So,
I didn't see over the top. I didn't see,
How do you not see over the top?
I did because I have a brain and eyes. Okay. All right. That's number 1.
Oh, Mr. Sophisticated.
And then what was the other one? The wrestling people bump into each other. What's the name of that movie you saw? I've got too much testosterone. I got to prove I'm a man. What was the name of one of the movies that you had there?
No Holds Barred.
I'm 12 years old. I'm 56, but I'm still think I'm 12. What was the name of the movie?
All right. Are you ready to make this list?
Well, I'm not putting either of those two on that list. Can we agree with that? They're both gone.
All right.
Please.
All right. Listen to me.
Please, they're gone.
Listen to me. You got to put Drop Dead Fred on the list. No?
Yes.
Okay. Drop Dead Fred. You got to put Roadhouse.
Yes. Got to put Biodome because you almost had it on your list. It's on my list.
I'll put Biodome.
Right.
Now, what's the other?
I really feel strongly about Out for Justice.
All right, Out for Justice. I'll give you Out for Justice. So we got Roadhouse, we got Drop Dead Fred, Biodome, and Out for Justice.
So
I'm
now
not putting Godfather 3.
Right. All right, that's gone. Okay. Now, how do you feel about Breaking 2?
All right. Before we come up with the quintessential list, I'll quickly give my top 5. At number 5, Detroit Rock City, phenomenal. At number 4, No Holds Barred, still spoken about in glowing terms today. Number 3, Over the Top. Number 2, Drop Dead Fred. Number 1, Roadhouse. So quickly, 5-1. Your 5.
All right, Double Impact number 5, Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo number 4, Biodome 3, Out for Justice 2, Godfather 3, 1. So Godfather 3 gone. Okay, Double Impact gone. Agreed?
Yes.
Okay, so that Biodome's definitely in. Out for Justice is definitely in. So we've got Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo, Detroit Rock City, and Roadhouse.
I got it. You ready? I got it.
All right.
And I don't think there's going to be any disagreement. Number 5, Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Okay.
Okay. At 4, Biodome.
Yes.
At 3, Out for Justice. At 2, Drop Dead Fred, and 1, Roadhouse.
I could live with that.
Okay, so here is our quintessential playlist when it comes to guilty pleasure movies. At 5, Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo. If you haven't seen it, shame on you.
Enjoy yourself.
That's right. At number 4, Biodome. At number 3, Out for Justice. At number 2, grossly underrated Drop Dead Fred. And at number 1, the top guilty pleasure movie of all time, Roadhouse.
That's great. I mean, because I'm kicking myself I didn't have Roadhouse, because that literally can be on every time.
Yes.
And I'll watch it. I just thought more people liked it, but I guess there are people that wouldn't like it. But I'm a big Patrick Swayze guy, and the revenge factor too, right? You love that the town gets its comeuppance at the end, and it's got humor. It's got attractive women, really. And I mean, I would never go to the Double Deuce, would you? That's not a place I'd want to hang.
Probably not. You ready to wrap this up, Don?
Yeah, I'm ready to wrap it up.
All right. Don, always great doing this. Please make sure you rate, you subscribe. It's a LaGreca show, LaGreca TV. Tell your friends all about it, and we'll be back next week.
And if you want to get in touch with us, obviously you can follow us on social media at Don LaGreca, at Dave LaGreca 1, and
at David LaGreca 1.
David LaGreca 1. I follow you, but I don't pay attention.
Of course you don't.
And then make sure you put hashtag It's a LaGreca show. We can find it because Dave's got all these yo-yo people want to talk about wrestling, and I got all these yo-yo people want to talk about sports. So hashtag It's a LaGreca show so we can find it, because I'm sure you've got some guilty pleasure movies you want to throw in there, and I'm sure you want to argue with our list. So we'll talk to you later, buddy.